Alright, darling. Yeah, I need to let all these guys in. The local thieves, so they're going to get fucking everything.
You filming today?
Yeah, we're doing the show live in a minute.
Oh, okay, nice one.
Morning, team. No, I'm not alright, but fuck it anyway, no one listens. Val, I've organised some people to come and interview you.
Oh, Barry, you're in our magazine this month.
Yeah?
You're in our magazine this month. Brooke interviewed you.
Oh, not that magazine.
Yeah.
How long was the interview? First?
No, I did it on the...
Online?
Yeah.
How long was it? How long did it take you?
Oh, it took me... Well, I can't spell, can I?
Spell check.
I did it on my phone. I got fat thumbs. I can go like that. The O and the I are too close together.
That's it.
Win on one.
So do you think boxing now is as exciting as it's ever been?
Oh, it's better than it's ever been. I mean, it's, you know,
It's amazing, isn't it?
maybe Conte was a great fighter, but you know, you had 12 shows a year that were worth it in the 70s. Maybe Hunnigan was exciting. He was exciting for 2 years. Bruno was a great servant. Bugner was a great underestimated heavyweight. Lennox was great. Eubank and Co were great. But right now, we're booming. The only thing that's missing now is that we're not going to see guys in 3 and 4 and 5 hard fights. Everybody seems to have this, oh, I can't do it anymore, I've only got 2 more in me. Bellew, I've got 2 or 3 more in me. What's his face? Everyone seems to be sort of talking about how few fights they've got left. When, you know, whereas, you know, like, imagine if Eubank and Ben had said after their 1990 fight, oh, that's it, I haven't got any more of those. No disrespects, you know, we would have been deprived of 6 or 7 great fights, or maybe 10 great fights if you look at it. You look at Ben, if they'd have said after that fight, if they'd have uttered after that fight the type of stuff I'm hearing from so many modern fighters, then we wouldn't have had the business. And that's the only drawback at the moment.
Do you reckon that's because there's more money in it now, so they don't need to continue
They're making more money, they're a bit more health conscious.
Yeah.
You know, those guys would do lally. I mean, they were, you know, reckless and fearless. They all came out of it. You know, Watson didn't come out of it well, but the other 2, and then Kawasaki did come out of it well. That's my only sort of theory, is that when I look at it, I don't see a mad commitment from Bellew and Hay to have 3 fights. I don't see a mad commitment for. I mean, you know, even Fury before he pulled out of the Klitschko fight was talking about 1 or 2 more. And I don't get that. The reason is, it's quite simple. If they bank fortunes,
that's what I mean. The money.
People are banking. You know, they're banking money out of all proportion to their talent and their skills, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. And long may they all make millions. But at the end of the day, someone will go, hold on a minute.
If only they.
Why hasn't he fought in? Why hasn't that happened?
I was going to ask you actually. Do you think these days there's too much of an emphasis on keeping that the unbeaten record?
I just wrote about this in Boxing Monthly. We've got a situation at the moment where we've got probably 100 boxers who are 10 on 10 and 0, or 8 or 9 and 0. That's unheard of. Every great fighter you can throw at me before Nassim Hamid came to power, in whenever that was, 20 odd years ago, every great fighter had lost. Everyone. So all of the Contes, the Finnegans, the Minters, the Magris, the Watts, the Buchanans, the Brunos, they'd all lost before they became famous. Some of them had lost several times. I don't mean on one disqualification. I mean, they'd lost 2 and 3 and 4 times before they got there. The 0 meant nothing back
it's
then.
Such a valuable thing to have, isn't it?
Yeah, it's too sort of valuable.
Because then we were saying earlier on, like UFC, for example. They lose all the time, and no one really bats an eye. Like McGregor,
they do lose all the time, but maybe that will change going forward. I mean, if they had some competition, if Bellator become even more credible and more powerful than they are now, in 2 years and 3 years' time, maybe they will protect themselves. Maybe the fighters will think, hold on a minute, shoot, do I need to fight this guy again who I know who's got a chance of knocking me out, or I can go to Bellator and have a slightly easier fight, make the same amount of money. That's the reason why they lost then. They had no choice. You know, BBC showed boxing in the 70s, 20 times a year. All the fights were in London, every single fight. So just written a book about it, so I know this is facts. So all the big fights were in London. They had nowhere else to go. You either take the fight, or you're basically on the out. It's quite simple. Whereas now, fights all around the country. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Frank Warren revolutionised boxing in the 80s when he took fights on the road.
Around the world, yeah.
You know, on
Around
everywhere.
the
So
country,
suddenly Sheffield, Cardiff, fights were there. Not one occasional, but they went all over the globe. Manchester, Scotland, we have fights everywhere. Jim Watt had his fights in Scotland, but even he lost his title at Wembley.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
Yeah.
So it's the business has changed, and
I think it is more of a business now as well,
yeah,
isn't
and,
it?
and you have to say it's better because more people are making more money.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. And you can't start looking at fights because there were some rubbish champions in the 70s, by the way, some rubbish British champions in the 70s, and there's some diabolical, undeserving champions right now. So it hasn't really, that part of it, the good fighters and bad fighters, and you know, do I think the fighters were better in the 70s, 80s and 90s compared to the fighters now? No, I think there was groups in the 70s, groups in the 80s, groups in the 90s, and groups right now that are a phenomenal group. You know, we know it's a pleasure.
Exceptional, yeah.
Exceptional. You know, the delight to cover Carl Froch. It's a delight to cover Joshua.
Yeah.
You know, he's the greatest 18 bout novice in heavyweight history. I mean, I think he might be the greatest 18 fight heavyweight ever.
Yeah.
At 18 fights.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's the best fighter in heavyweight in the world. It means he's the greatest 18 fight heavyweight. It was a pleasure covering Hatton.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure covering Froch. The Hay Bellew was a mad event.
Yeah,
It was ridiculous. It was mental.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't find fault. You can't find fault with that. You can't live in the past. And I mean, when I started in the early 80s, I didn't want to be like some of the guys I was working with then. I didn't want to be, when Mohammed did this or Terry Downs. No, it's cobblers, you know. I mean,
It's nice to hear you say like you've been in the business so long and you still get that excitement about sort of Hay and Bellew, you know.
I get excited. I get excited about junior finals. I can go and cover junior box. I can go to a club show and still enjoy it. I can be at the Boston Dome at an Islington show and have a great night and see something.
It's the love of the sport, isn't it?
It's the love of the sport, and you end up seeing something that comes back.
Yeah.
There's always something that comes back. So whether it's some kid having his second fight who just looks a bit big in the big southpaw and he might be tricky, Audley Harrison 10 years later wins a gold medal. There's always something like that. It's amazing how many times that comes back. And when I was doing the research for the book, I kept finding things that I'd forgotten I'd written, really bizarrely, because I'd written them in 91 or something. And I kept finding things I'd forgotten I'd written. I kept finding programs I forgot I had. And in these, I was uncovering nuggets, mad things. You want to do this thing, Con? Yeah, sure. Can you get me a prop, mate? Can you get me a wig? Yes, a wig.
I don't know if he's joking or not.
Smashed it. Straight to Woolies.
That's what I
Some
do,
pick and
man.
mix. Can you spend 16p in pick and mix? You used to be able to, you remember?
I couldn't read fucking 16 pages, I tell you that much.
You weren't meant to read it, so you just meant to buy it.